Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Andrew Davis, and obviously, this is open discussion. Haven't done one of these in almost a month. Kind of took a break, and this isn't, I guess, new, but it's been going around for 3 weeks, give or take. And we are talking about CGC and kind of what they're going through. And I know a bunch of you have already commented on it, but I kind of wanted to break it down a little bit, let the dust settle. And I think I have a unique opinion on it. I think Mike Wheeler has a unique opinion. I think Paul also has an opinion. And if anybody wants to chime in the comments sections, feel free to. But we're all adults and we're all going to be civil here if we agree or disagree with each other. And so I hopefully everybody in the comment section watching can also be that way. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about. But before we do, I do want to give everybody a chance to kind of promote themselves. And Mike, I know you got something coming out. So what do you got going on before we get too deep into this?
Well, we got a Trip Story going out. It's in pre-launch right now. It's a fun Toy Story parody, and we're excited about that. We got a lot of good stuff going on with that. We got that first cover you just showed is by Comics Gate artist Vic King. Did a phenomenal job on that. Mindy did the colors. That's by 3D designer Paul Sutton. That's by graffiti artist Gabriel Apodeca, I think. And let's see what else you got.
I think that's all I got. In this. Sorry, I want people to be a little bit surprised. We gotta be a little suspenseful for people.
Yeah. They haven't even been released on the Kickstarter yet. You can't even see them all yet.
No, we gotta leave a few surprises.
Yeah. But, imagine a universe of toys that are high on weed and enjoy it. It's just fantastic and phenomenal. That's why we call it Trip Story.
And then what's going on with Comics Illustrated? Because I think that's going pretty well right now.
Dude, Comics Illustrated is such a hit. We have cover artists booked out until about July. I mean, it's crazy. It's a promotion machine. That's really what it is. Happy to be a part of it. Happy to promote all the creators who have taken part in it. Got a little surprise. I'll actually drop the surprise here on the show. We reached out to Todd McFarlane and got a response back from his rep. So we got an interview coming with Todd here probably in the next month or so. So that's going to be nice.
And then obviously I'm going to be writing, and I got some stuff, and I'm going to be dusting off myself. And I know my last two weren't great, guys. I haven't written something in a while. So
you did fine.
I wasn't happy with the last one. I was having a bad month. I was having a bad week too. And I know when I don't do a good job. I don't need to be told, and I don't need anybody to beat me up for it either. I know when I fuck up. Sometimes. But anyway, I digress. But what about you, Paul? What do you got going on before we get too deep into this? And I got an announcement too, but I'll let Paul go first.
No, it's been a rough year. I'm still trying to fulfill my last campaign, so I'm trying to get that done. And as soon as that's done, I'm in the middle of working on my 6th book, I believe it is, and that's going to be Bushibu Issue 3, Bushibu Circus Mysteries Issue 3. Working on that right now, but we want to fulfill the last campaign before we get to the next one, and that's where we're at.
And then what I got going on is obviously I've taken a 6-week sort of hiatus. I did 2 interviews after I said I was done for the year, but I took a relatively 6-week hiatus, and I got some very interesting people coming on. And this is who's starting off season 5, guys. She's starting off season 5.
Wow.
And yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. And I have Dave Franchini coming on right after her, the publisher from Zenoscope. And after that, I got Jen Thomas, and then I got a few other people lined up, and I got 2 more spots open for opening week, and then I have about 10 interviews scheduled already for all of January. So I'm super excited. January 9th, 7 o'clock, Kelly Pierce is coming on. So I'm so excited, and I think people are going to be very, very interested in that interview. So we're going to have a good time. But enough about me, because I want to talk about what's going on with CGC, what happened, and anybody can chime in, but my understanding is that, and this is the way I describe it, is that somebody went on social media, either YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and they showed how to crack open a slab where you heat up a piece of it, then you crack it open and you could remove a book, and you removed book A and replaced it with book B, and then it created a viral spiral. And then that happened, and then I think another company, there was a bunch of suspicion, and then a bunch of books sort of were cracked open or supposedly cracked open by a particular company, and then that kind of sent the whole thing scrambling for people saying, "Wait a second, are my books legit?" Because I think that that's the story in the very short, from my understanding, unless I'm wrong completely.
That's pretty much it. But see, I think it goes a little bit deeper than that as well. This stuff has been suspected for 5 to 10 years. Just baseline, the people were doing stuff like this, and it's come to the point to where people were looking at scans of the books, and that's kind of how it started. And this was a few months ago. They're like, hey, look at this book and look at the scans on it, look at the grader notes, they don't match. And when that came to light, and it was pretty much irrefutable that this book that's in the case compared to the grader notes and the scan is not the same book, then I guess somebody took it upon themselves to do what you said and crack it out and see if they could do it and try to replicate, if possible, that same achievement, which it looks like they did. And that's trouble. I think that is catastrophic to the grading, not just the grading industry, but I mean, it translates throughout the entire industry, from the price of floppies of raw, from the price of the slabs. The investors are sent panicking because there's people that have thousands upon millions of dollars in books and CGC stuff. Oh, I could go on and on.
For 1 sec, I don't even think it's a comic book problem. I think it's a collectible problem.
I
think it goes beyond that. So, obviously I have the 9.9 news, and I don't know if anybody saw what I just posted up, but apparently I think he broke the story, or he was one of the first to break the story. And one of the things that I think I'm a huge baseball card collector. I'm really interested in getting some PSA grade stuff. I just got 2 of them. And so I'm very into that. And now I'm questioning, saying, is this legit? Because if you get a book, and I have some CGC stuff here right now. So I have a CGC book, and you can get cards graded like this too. And the question is that if this could get cracked open, I'm not cracking it open. This thing looks good. I highly doubt that this one is fake. I very, very not suspect it from who I bought it from. I know who I bought it from. I'd be very shocked if it was, but this is a card. And if I get this thing graded, I'm very concerned. Is it legit? And now I just bought 2 cards, and I'm like, is this legit? And that's kind of a whole thing. And I was telling a story before we went on air. My dad has baseballs, and he bought them without any certification from Cooperstown, and they came back as fake autographs. And so this, as you were going on, sorry to interrupt you, this isn't a new problem. I just think it reached a critical mass level that it became noticeable, where 1 or 2 is saying, oh, this is just somebody pulling something.
Now, you're talking about comics and you're talking about baseball cards, but let me ask you this. What is the bigger issue here? I mean, it's really about trust. I mean, everybody in the world has money in their pocket. Can I ask, do you think every dollar that you have is actually real and true? Because dollars are counterfeit too all the time. And a lot of people don't think about that much because it's not a high dollar thing as this is. And this is something that you trust because it's never came out as big of a deal as it has.
Personally or professionally? No, I'm just joking. I'm assuming it's a professional question, right?
Well, I mean, you start thinking about it whenever you're talking about $100 bills. Is this $100 real? Is this one? But you don't think about the 20s, 5s, and 10s. And I know, whenever I used to work retail 10, 15 years ago, every once in a while we'd come across a 20 that was fake. Well, if they're going to fake $20 bills, of course they're going to try to fake or counterfeit thousands of dollars of comic book or baseball items.
This is interesting, right? Because would somebody fake, a $30 CGC book and flip it out? Versus would somebody go for a Hulk 181, or is it that they're staying in the $500 range? Because honestly, I'll be really honest. If I was going to scam everybody, I run an eBay business. I don't want to scam anybody. I want to run a legitimate business because my business is a cash machine for me. It's a profitable business, and I don't want to fuck that up, right? I think most people run legitimate businesses. I like to believe that. I'm very optimistic, but that I'm going to table that argument for 1 second. But the question is that, because my understanding, and Mike, you might know more than I do, was this really with high-end books like a Hulk 181, or was it with things like $200 books?
It depends, and I'm going to tell you how it depends. It depends on how much money this guy had starting out now, doesn't it? What if he didn't have money to buy a $25,000 Hulk 181? He had to work his way up somewhere, huh? And that means he had to start at the smaller books and flip it until he got up to the top, doesn't it?
And if you looked what he had on his site, I think he had
he had a variety
ones, but he did have some lower prices as well.
So I mean, you got to start somewhere, and not everybody's got $25,000 to pop down on a Hulk 181 or $15,000 to pop down on a Fantastic Four with a Mark Jewelers variant. Not everybody's got that kind of cash, so you got to start somewhere.
I mean, this is what the 9.9 news 5 to 30K books discovered total hundreds of thousands. So I mean, I'm gonna kind of call 9.0 out a little bit on that, where if 5 are only found so far, and $30,000 or anywhere around that number, I mean, it's way more than that. It's got to be 10 times that minimum, easy.
Well,
to be conservative, because if 5 were found, I mean, I go on the 10x rule, meaning that.
And what if he has a bad month and then loses some money, and now he has to start over and go up again? How many times has he done this? And if you think it's just one person, like he never told his friends about it.
I read that wrong. My bad.
Come on.
I read that completely wrong. My bad. Sorry. I'm correcting myself. So continue.
But he also worked under different names as well. I believe they had went back to 2015, and he had like 3 different names, and he had so many books on there.
This is the question.
They were different prices.
This is just one, right? So obviously we found the one, right? So everything is an epicenter from there, right? It has to be. So what happens if somebody over here, John, Smith, is doing this, and he did 5 over here, and then Joe did 3 over there, and Sally did 6 over there, but then Sally said, I did 6, I made $5,000 on this, and I don't want to play anymore because I made $5,000, and now I want to leverage out, right? Because that probably also happened. And if this has been going on for 10 years, the question is that how is it even trackable? That's
the thing. You don't know. The only way to know is to crack every single book out and regrade it from scratch.
But I mean, let's take a minute to think about this, okay? If you will. So, is it really CGC? Because aren't there books out there that other people have printed that have been found to be fake?
Well, we're not talking about like fake books. We're talking about the ones that are they're real books. They've been graded. They're just the wrong grades.
But there are also fake books out there. This is what I'm saying.
There are reproductions. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not talking about fake books. They're just talking about CGC.
I want to table this because I want to understand the argument. So because I'm confused, which means somebody who's watching this is also probably confused, is that I don't think the question is that there's a fake book, because I think what's happened with this is that, great, you have a 9.8 Hulk 181. I'm going to outline the situation. Or let's say you have a Hulk, you have a 9.8, right? You crack it open and you put a book that's not a 9.8 in there, but then it maintains the 9.8 grade. And then the real scam is you then go get your 9.8 Hulk regraded. When you cracked it out, you put an 8.5 in there, you sell the 9.8, but it's really an 8.5, and then you get your 9.8, it comes back as a 9.6, and you're double dipping. That, to me, that's my understanding of the whole scam. Right?
Well, that's a scam. But I mean, the overall warning that we should be telling customers as us creators is buyer beware. Look, it's not just CGC. It's, fake books out there. There's fake covers that are being printed out there
In
for
this
books.
circumstance,
It's not just CGC.
in
These
this
are
circumstance,
these are
CGC is
just a
not
few
the
things to
problem.
watch out for.
CGC is not the problem. CGC caused none of this, in which
Right.
they flop out a book. We need to clarify that argument before, and I need to make sure that nobody here who's read this is saying CGC, you're at fault.
No.
Clearly, they because once this book is in my possession.
Well, but see, here's another thing too, where they could possibly be at fault. There's the reholder scam that people are talking about too, which is completely different than just swapping out books. What we saw that dude replicate is a process to where you could swap out a book, but there's another one where they're coming back and saying that they open it up and they send it in to get reholdered with the label from a book that didn't get holdered, and then it gets slid through the process quickly and it doesn't get regraded or examined close enough that they just slide it right through. That could be an issue, but I'm not saying that's happened. But that's there have been claims on forums that that's what's happened.
So what the 9.9 is saying on this is that, but I think for reholders they need to confirm it's the same book, and they fail. That I think that's a different scam. There's two different ones going on right now, which is even more dangerous because it's not just I swapped out a book. The reholder thing is said to be an issue as well. And also what happens when you have two scams is that they get combined into one, and then people have no idea which is it. And they say, oh, the reholder scam is this scam with that. And then it creates a bigger issue because now misinformation. So to me, those are separate issues completely. Yeah. But I mean, that's my understanding of it. So, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I have my own thoughts on the answer. But this is my thing is that, I mean, the only thing I know is that I want to know who I'm buying from. I look on eBay what somebody's reputation is. I look at the price. I also say, look, if a Hulk 181, and I'm using that book because it's an easy book to understand, a Hulk 181 and a 9.8 should be trading for over 30,000. If somebody is selling me a Hulk 9.8 for 10K, either two things are going on. That person's going bankrupt. And, I want to see tax returns first and foremost. If they're selling me a book for 10K or less, that should be trading for 30. They're having major financial problems, or it's a scam because that book should trade for X. Now, if I have a book like this right here, this book costs $20. If somebody's selling this book for 60, that to me is in range and it's probably not a scam. Or if they're selling it to me for 15, it's probably also within range because it was a $20 book when it first came out. We're not off base. So that's usually an indicator for me, and it goes back to buyer beware, where anything that looks too good usually is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not limited to that as well. They could post it up there for 30,000 and sell it just the same. I mean, and just make you think, oh, well, he's selling it for 30,000, so it must be legit. Yeah. There's that too. So, I mean, you never know that. I mean, the best thing you can do is do your due diligence, make sure you know who you're trading with, and make sure that you read the grader's notes and ask for high-res scans of the book, both sides. Doesn't matter if it's slabbed. And if they don't want to take the time to do that, then you're probably dealing with somebody that you don't want to deal with. And that's just bottom line. That's what it is.
Now, I'm a big fan of the Pawn Stars show. You know this show. They go in, they take something into them, and one of the first questions they ask someone who's selling something is, where did you get it?
Yeah.
What is the trail?
Tell me the story.
Exactly. And like I say, it's buyer beware because they want to know what the history is behind it. And as a buyer, you shouldn't expect to throw down 10, 15, 20,000 without doing a little investigation yourself.
So I'll tell a story about due diligence.
But you got to really protect yourself. A lot of people are out there to scam you.
So due diligence with this book. I was eyeing this book for about 18 months. So I know everything about this book. I understand what happened with this book. To get this book, you had to be at San Diego Comic-Con. You had to be and buy it from a particular booth. I know the exact booth number. I have it written down somewhere. I don't know it off the top of my head. Then you had to buy the book for $25. Then you entered into an auction to get the signatures. And then the signatures were done by Mattel. And so I understand every procedure on how to get this book done. So that's very important because that means that I have a pretty good idea how this book was signed, where it was signed, what time it was signed, what day it was signed at San Diego Comic-Con. And all of that stuff matters because then you go look at the notes and then you go, cool, this thing was signed on 17/17. I then look at it and I compare. I'm like, oh, that's when that auction was. And that's when these 6 ladies were signing. Oh, this must be, it becomes more and more and more obvious that this thing looks and seems legit. And there's 14 things. Now, do I know for a certain, could it be fake? Absolutely, there's a possibility. But the more information you have, but that didn't just happen overnight. I mean, I had the book for 18 months, and it took me about 6 weeks to get all of that information down and have a pretty good idea. So, and that's a $250 book. No. So if you're buying a $30,000 book and you haven't done your homework on it and it has signatures or it was graded, I mean, you gotta, and you say, cool, I'll just drop $30K for it. Either you don't really care or you're not risk adverse or something in your head saying, $30,000, it's nothing. It's like a drop in the bucket. I have an extra $30,000 around, and if you do, I will happily take it.
Well, I mean, like I said, that's the thing. It's buyer beware. You got to look into your homework on these items too. I had a friend who, I guess I say friend. They came on to another show, and they were asking the comic creators, "Hey, does this look right? I'm going to spend a few $1,000s on this book. Could you give me your advice?"
Tell them it was me. It's all right. I'll admit to it.
But I mean, and that's the thing to do. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. There are a lot of bad things out there, whether it's the money in your pocket, whether it's a baseball card that you're going to buy that's autographed. That autograph might not be real. Or if it's a CGC comic book that's, slabbed, you got to ask questions. You got to know where it's coming from and authenticity of it and who's doing it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess this leaves 2 questions. What can actually a bunch of questions. So what I'm more interested in is that, I mean, I'm enjoying this whole sell-off. I'm enjoying the panic. I'm enjoying the fear a little bit because I find it interesting when people panic about assets and people are listing their Hulk 181s and a bunch of other books for relatively low prices. And I find that to be very enjoyable because if you are not terrified of risk and being burned, it's like a freaking fire sale here, and it's awesome. I don't want any part of it. I'm staying out of this one pretty cleanly. But
that's smart.
I want to see where the dust settles. Let me put it this way: if there was a $50 book and it went on sale for $35, I would take a $50 risk because a $50 risk of getting burned is like me going to Starbucks for 2 weeks in a row. I can afford to lose my coffee bill for 2 weeks in a row. I'm more than happy to lose and miss out on Starbucks. I will go to Dunkin' Donuts instead.
So here's the thing too, like now that the scammers know that we know that everybody knows, they're going to be trying to offload the stuff that they've done pretty fast before CGC makes that next change. And so that's going to cause an even bigger problem because as soon as CGC announces a new case design, there's going to be a mass submission for reholders. And they're either going to be out millions of dollars because they're going to have to pay for all of it.
Yeah.
Or they're going to have us pay for it, which is probably what's going to happen. They're going to charge you a fee to get everything reholdered and looked at again. And that's it's going to cause such a backlog. You're not going to get a CGC submission back for 2 years. It's going to be a nightmare.
And it is a nightmare already getting stuff from
CGC. And just wait until the video comes out where they can do it with CBCS too.
Yeah. Well,
that's coming. That's coming. Everybody says, "Oh, CBCS is different." Dude, they use pretty much the same case design. I can tell you right now.
I mean, they really should look into a newer case for something more expensive. If your case is just plastic, they're definitely going to find a way into it.
Yeah.
So whenever you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars, why isn't it metal? Why isn't it some other kind of way that
everybody talks shit about PGX. Everybody has for the longest time. They say PGX is shit. But I'm going to tell you one company right now who is not affected by this. That's PGX. Because that book is heat sealed in that sleeve with the label. That label is heat sealed on all four corners, and the book is heat sealed on the three corners and the top corner there that connects to it. So in order to get, like, if you were to pop that case open, the book and the label come out in the sleeve and it's all one piece. You have to cut the label out with scissors to get the label out. You have to cut the book out with scissors to get the book out. So they could talk all the shit they want about PGX, but it seems to be that they were smarter in their case design years ago than both of the other ones.
Right.
I don't know.
So this is where I want to go with this, is that I don't know what the answer is exactly, because I don't know if it's a case design issue. I don't know if you put something in the case that if you crack it open, it creates something where I don't think they should design a case that ruins your comic if you crack it open. I mean, maybe they should, but I think that's going to create a bigger problem, because I get a book graded and then I want to get it signed and then I have to crack it open and ruin something. I think that messes up, and I think that's going to hurt collecting, because I know plenty of people who have gotten a book, graded, came back as a 7.5, and then the person's signing and CGC's cracked open the case for them, and then they've gotten it autographed and it becomes a yellow label. So I think that's not an answer. I think it's an answer. I think it's a shitty one, right? And I'm open for disagreement on that. Maybe if you get something graded, it's one and done, and then you're screwed. So think about what you want to get graded, where you only go in one direction. I mean, that could be an answer. It's a very draconian answer. I don't know if that makes any sense what I just described, but the other thing is that maybe there's something in there that doesn't damage the book, but we all know that if you reseal it, it's going to miss a piece. And then we know that you cracked it open. And there's a problem.
Well, that's going to be tough, because, I mean, like, you can get pretty much anything off with heat. And as we have seen, you heat it up, it comes apart. That's kind of the thing. So, I mean, what else is there left? I mean, people were suggesting that maybe they put tamper-proof labels on all four corners, to where if you try to get something out, it rips that label. I mean, that's an okay solution, but what happens if you're a little bit rough with your slab and that label comes off? Well, now you got to get it reholdered before you can sell it. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that could be done. Like you suggested, they could put something in there that changes colors when it hits oxygen. If they could find a way to seal it. But that means if you drop your slab too hard, guess what? Now you got a purple comic book. But of course, it wouldn't be the comic book. It would just be, purple around the mylar, and the comic book would be fine. But
yeah. In which if you rob a bank back in the old day, they used to have splatter things in there that would get the money.
Those ink packs. Yeah.
And so, you could ink pack it, and let's say that it impacts. It's not going to damage your book for the most part. They would have to test it. Obviously, it would have to be tested pretty hard. But great, your comic is still protected. But then let's say that you didn't do something wrong and it just accidentally happened. You have to go to CGC, and then you got to get it taken care of.
To get it reholdered.
You got to get it reholdered. But now they'll reinspect the book in the process. Yeah. And because it's triggered something. And therefore, if you did fake it, you're not going to get, if you faked it and swapped out a book, you're not going to get it reholdered.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, fuck. And it's going to systematically eliminate the problem. But it doesn't solve the current problem of a bunch of people having fake books. Because now, if they say there's 500 fakes out there, it's more like 5,000. And I'm being very generous. I'm being very generous when I say that. Very. So I don't know what it does exactly for every book now that is potentially fake.
Well, it makes it to where it's untrustworthy. And once you lose faith in the book itself or the company that graded it or the system that you have set in place, then it devalues it. That's what happens.
I mean, is this a situation where, because I just went through this with baseballs, as I was stating. And so now everything that I buy is PSA DNA'd, JSA'd. Spencer's is okay. I don't trust Spencer's. I don't really trust Steiner's. I go with JSA, PSA. I'll go with Beckett. If Topps, I get an autograph card in a pack that I open up, and I opened up the pack myself, I trust that autograph because it says Topps says they certified it.
Yeah.
So, I very much trust Topps, especially if it's a numbered card. So obviously I trust that, but there's also in my world now, because of what happened to me and my dad, there's the old era and then there's the new era where everything is PSA DNA'd only. And so now with me, I might go and look at and say, cool, 2023 November was old CGC, and then come March they have a new program in place and it's new CGC, and any book in the new program I trust more than the old program. And it might just be a shitty situation for collectors.
I don't want to. I don't know if I like continuously going back to cash, because there's the old currency, and then there's the newer currency, and it's not the end of the world whenever you find stuff like this. It's just that you have to make a better way of it. So, like I said, you have old dollar bills that didn't have the strips on them, and now the newer dollar bills have the hollows and strips and everything else. Security stuff. So that it is going to be one of those things that it's going to evolve. Hopefully the cases get better, and then it's just going to go on from there. But again, like I said, it all comes down to buyer beware. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's just going to be a newer way of looking at things.
Yeah. It's just going to be a reset. It's really what it is. And things are going to have to get reholdered. So that's just millions of dollars coming from somewhere or someone, and that's going to be tough.
So if you're going to buy one of my books, wait to get the new cases on my books instead of the older cases. I know some of y'all have gone out there and cased some of my books because y'all told me. But, I've been waiting myself, so I'm ready.
Do you also feel, because obviously I have a baseball card here, I have a comic that kind of does this, and I don't know if everybody could see it, but this card is numbered. It's number 12 out of 23. So there's only 23 of these. I opened it out of a pack. It's a really cool pull. And I'm wondering that also this Mount Olympus book is numbered 1 out of 65, as you could see. And I'm wondering if that's also maybe part of the answer, is that maybe the answer doesn't fall in CGC.
Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, if you got the digital files, I can make you anything you want with any number you want on it. I just send it to my printer and say, hey, get this done. And then they send me a box full of numbered books. That's not going to stop shit. That's really not.
On a comic, I might give it to you. On something like this, which is sort of stamped in, it might be harder.
Yeah, well, embossed, yeah. But still, you can go through China and get all the embossed shit that you want, too. Yeah. So it's just, if people have the aspiration to create the fake stuff, I mean, they're going to do it. And
I think with a company like Topps, which now is bought by Fanatics, I think if they found out, they would come after you pretty hard. I don't think it would fly. I think it would be caught pretty quickly, especially with like that card or Trey Turner number 12 out of 23. Yeah. Like the low number shit, I think a low number baseball card will be caught faster than anything else.
Probably, yeah.
I could see with the Mount Olympus book, and nothing against Mount Olympus. I love Mount Olympus. I can concede on the comic. Like I could definitely concede on the comic. I think a baseball card is a harder fight. But I'm a little biased on that. So because I have a 12 out of 23, so a little biased, guys. But I get the point. I get the point heavy because I'll surrender certain positions on that without a doubt. But I'm wondering what like the answer is, because if I know that if I send that book and it's 1 out of 65 to CGC and then it's noted on the label, it is hard to swap that out. Where that is harder to do than swapping out, a face
Well,
smell.
with CGC's registry, and they keep a list of all the stuff that they grade, and they note on the cover like number 1 out of 65 or number 2 out of 65. They put that on the label. So like if they were to get like 6 number 2s in, like they're gonna know, But if you were to send 1 number 2 into CGC and 1 number 2 into CBCS, like who would know?
Fair enough.
Is there a cross reference there between those 2 companies? I think not.
I think the way it would be caught is if you sold both of them on the same eBay account.
Right. But if you sell one on Facebook or one locally in your shop, and then you sell the other one on eBay, who would ever know?
That is true. Or if, person A sold it on one of their eBay stores, and then, 6 years later you sold the second one, and there was time between. But I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what the answer is, because I don't know what the answer is, because clearly this is going to create a problem. And I already know what the problem is, and I already know it's going to affect me. And that's why I'm upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things. I think personally it's a better case. It's going to be the best answer for it. If you're going to try to create a product that can't be replicated, you're probably going to fail, because anything that can be done is probably going to be able to be replicated in one way or another. So, I mean,
I would actually encourage, Steve Borak, because that's who's going to be the man to do it. If anybody can bridge the gap between these 2 companies, it's going to be Steve. As much as CGC doesn't really like Steve right now, and maybe it goes both ways. I don't know. I don't know their personal history, but I know that Steve used to work for CGC, and he separated and started CBCS. So if there's any man that can reach across the aisle and say, hey, we should come together as grading companies for the good of the hobby and share our databases with each other to encourage transparency and to make sure that this stuff isn't occurring, that would probably be the way to go. Is to where there's some kind of thing to where you can search both at the same time, CBCS's registry and CGC's registry, and cross-reference it to make sure stuff like you just mentioned wouldn't be occurring.
No. It makes sense, because clearly I think we've reached a point now, especially.
And I know Steve well enough too that if you come up to him and say, for the good of the hobby, he's going to be the first one to be on board.
Do you even think it's good for the hobby, or do you think it's good for business? Because I wouldn't even say it's good for the hobby anymore. I would say it's good for business.
Both, but mainly it's good for the hobby.
They're one and the same, aren't they?
Yeah, you can't have one without the other.
The reason why I say this is that people say, oh, I like my hobby. Then people also say, look, I want to stay in business and I want my company to continue because this is a profitable business and people enjoy doing this. And if we don't solve this problem, money's going to be lost.
Yeah.
Because, Stephanie and Triple H said this is good for business. And that was like the tagline for 2 years with the Authority. And obviously they were making a pun at themselves in a lot of ways. But the Triple H has done a lot of things that have been good for business. And I think what people forget is that when this company, and I trust this company with a comic book, or I trust Topps, that there's only 23 these cards in there, and then I get it, I say, okay, that's good because I know I have an item that is exclusive and is not getting reprinted. This card without this 12 and 23 on it there's probably like at least 5,000 of them. But there's none that have this purple little banner on the bottom of it for those who can see it. And that's what makes it really cool. And I trust Topps that they keep those really limited. And so when I go get that thing graded, which I know there's only 22 other people who have that card. If I found out that 50 people had a 12 out of 23, I'd be like, what the fuck? And then I'd lose faith. And then Topps would lose probably about $5,000 worth of my business every year. So because I know there's only 23 of those cards, Topps has my business at the moment. That's just how I feel. I don't know. It's whatever. Did I freeze? I don't know. Everybody's silent. I'm like,
No, I mean, it's one of those things. Like I said, if something is out there, people are going to try to replicate it if it's worth money, and you just got to find a better way, a better mousetrap, if you will. You got to find a better way to do things. Every once in a while, things have to improve because people are always going to try to figure it out, and that's just the nature of the beast. If you have something that's valuable, people are gonna. There's paintings out there that are masterpieces. People try to replicate them even today, and it's an evolution of things constantly. And it just so happens that right now it's a CGC issue. Like I said, there's regular comics that are being replicated.
Yeah.
So I mean, it isn't just CGC that's
You both are older than me. I'm 30. I'm gonna be 31 in a few days. Both of you are older. I think I can say that without being too offensive.
How dare you?
What you say? Fair enough. I'll just sit in the corner now. And then sulking. But obviously both of you have been around comics a lot longer than I have, and I don't remember when there was a scam like this in comics. And maybe I missed it. Maybe I was hiding. Maybe it wasn't on my radar. But I don't remember when there was something like this. I remember problems. I remember controversy. I don't remember a scam like this. And maybe I remember other scams. I know Ponzi schemes. I know the Madoff scam. I know watch scams. But I've never seen one in comics. I've seen baseball card stuff.
I've seen several, and not just in regards to grading. Like there's been stuff that's gone on. Tit for tat, favors for this, favors for that, control of certain people for exclusivity and turnkey opportunities. I mean, this shit's been going on for years. But this, if everyone talks about the comic book community, but I mean, on the real, dude, the comic book mafia is real. I'm gonna tell you right now,
right?
There is a mafia. There's an underground comic book mafia. The flippers and everything. Like there's shit you don't even know about.
I mean, I've done some shady shit. There's no question about that. That I've done some shady shit. I bought out print runs from people.
Yeah.
But I bought out runs where I was just there first, just like everybody else.
Well, how about scams like I'm not gonna let I'm not gonna let Todd McFarlane sign for CBCS because I have an exclusivity deal with CGC, and you're gonna give me X number of dollars and an appearance fee per signing, as well as X number of free grades and X number of upgrades on books that I want, in exchange for me keeping him out of the signing realm of CBCS. What about that?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different things that have happened in the past. Signatures. I think Stan Lee's signature was a big...
You talk about Max Anderson, Stan Lee's handler, and how he treated Stan, and how he had over 25,000 Stan Lee signatures in the bank ready to go when Stan died. And also the same thing, I'm going to only let Stan sign for CGC. I won't let him touch any other grading company because you're going to do me favors. And I said this in one of the comments on one of my page, on my page actually, and like this shit happened. I mean, I was sitting in Los Angeles with at the CGC booth with Michael Ballant. We're chopping it up, talking shit. And Michael's probably gonna get pissed off. I say this, and it's all public. I don't care. He can get pissed off. I don't give a shit because I'm not in grading anymore. So fuck you. But anyway, sitting at the CGC booth, and here comes Max Anderson. He's fucking proud of his Fantastic Four book that he just bought, and it's got one of the old school labels on it, right? One of the ones that were blue on the outside, white on the inside, the old school CGC labels. And he said, "Hey, look what I just got, Mike. Check it out." It's like, this shit hasn't been looked at in a while, has it? And Mike looks at it. He's like, "Yeah, it's pretty old." He's like, "Think you'd do me a favor and take a look at it again?" He's like, Yeah, I'm sure we could do something. Go ahead and throw it on your pile. Not too long, that 4.5 turns into a 6.0 on Max Anderson's eBay store. And how'd that happen?
Yeah.
How'd that happen?
Look, I've gotten favors from CGC, and I was and again, when you're a kid and I budget for my cons, I was in Awesome Con and I did a panel talking about comic book investing, and I mentioned them in the panel and I recommended them because I think they are a good company and I think they're good for grading. And I say, look, if you're going to do A, B, C, and D, this is what you need to do for your CGC books. If you're going to get a signature, go to them first. Make sure you're a witness. Because and everything that I said was relatively true. Did I speak higher of them than CBCS? Yeah. But obviously, I didn't say anything that wasn't untrue. And they gave me about 5 free grades. Now, that was worth $150. Now, you might say, oh, but $150 of them is nothing. Well, for me, when you only have $1,000 at a con and that extends your bank account at that con, that means I can go get my Elias Chazoudis sketch. And guess what? I don't have to worry about 5 gradings, and it reduces my bill significantly for the grading portion of that. And for them, it was nothing. It was nothing. And for me, it was everything because now I have an extra 5 gradings. And guess what? I got like 15 books graded, and it was helpful to me when you're a young starting out kid. And so, but I don't think that's unethical per se, but it was definitely a favor. And then they gave me some data, which really helped me too, which was even more valuable. Technically, that data is what I really wanted. The $150 in the scheme of things is nothing. Having data of what books and the value that it increases is beyond useful in that regard. And it wasn't even so much the money. It's just it gives me a different perspective. But again, I could imagine that 150 at 15,000, 30,000, 45,000, 150,000. I mean, now. That's a different number, right?
Well, what if you because they gave you 5 free gradings, they didn't limit it. So say you pass through 5 181s, because on the big tier books they take a percentage. They don't just charge a fee. They take the cut. So you could have made $5,000-$6,000 off that deal if you had the inkling.
Yeah, I had some good books in there that I wound up selling for about $500. So it's not like I had 2 or 3 of those. So I made
imagine that on a big scale. If you have a massive talent like Rob Liefeld that's bringing in 500-600 submissions, or Stan Lee who's bringing in 2,000-3,000 submissions. I mean, it's no skin off their back. They'll do what they want.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, imagine doing it for somebody small. And the reason why I start with the small number and I explain my story is that what you just said, times that by 10, 20, 40, 100, give it 100x. Now you're getting into something much larger. But I also understand business. I mean, I'm not going to pretend here where how do you think things get built in construction? The mob went from doing illegal things to running good, clean businesses. Let's just leave it at that. Let's just say that in order for your cement to be poured,
who do you think picks up your trash?
hey, I live in Bethel, Connecticut, and there's a documentary about the Trashers, and they were owned by a mob guy. And oh my God, that story made me cry because I'm like, we have a hockey team that's fun, and now they're upset. Oh, it's just. But I'm like, if the mob brought me good hockey, and I don't even like hockey, how bad could the mob be? It's like. But
I think the big question is does it lower your trust for CGC? I mean, maybe it lowers your trust a little bit, but I think everybody's still going to use them.
Yeah.
I think everybody still thinks that they're the standard whenever it comes to capsuling a book.
I mean, are you asking me personally? Because I'll tell you what I think, right?
Where else would you go?
What I think is the following: is that I think the next 6 months there's going to be a lot of selling off. I think people are terrified. I think people are scared because I think people say, I just bought a $30,000 book or a $20,000 book, and this may or may not be fake. Let me try to get 22,000 for it. Let me try to get 18 for it. Let me just get the hell out of this because if I find out this is fake, my wife is going to kill me.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Because people are saying this is my kid's college. And I think people are terrified right now. And so do I think that this is a blip? Oh, I think it's a blip. I mean, is it a 6-month blip? Is it an 18-month blip? I don't know the time frame. But what I do know is that I think that there's going to be a way how to deal with this. I think that they're going to find out that it's a much larger issue. And do you have to do your research? I think there's an opportunity to turn 50,000. You have $50,000 laying around and you buy a bunch of these books that are on the fear list, for lack of a better word. You're going to get burned on some of them, but you're going to make a lot of money on others. And that's what I think it is. So I think that in the temporary, I think that they are not right now to be trusted. I think in 6 to 18 months, this is going to be long forgotten.
And let's be clear, it's not CGC that shouldn't be trusted. It's the books. Because I don't want to go out and say, well, we can't trust CGC anymore. You know, it's the books that have already been graded.
I agree. What I'm going with is that CGC's brand is on those books.
Yeah.
So the problem here is that when you have a CGC book and then there's a problem with it, it's a brand issue. It goes to the idea that, so Shipyard, I'm drinking a Shipyard beer.
Well,
right now.
It could be worse. They could have hired Dylan Mulvaney to do a commercial.
Shipyard or CGC?
CGC.
I just want to make that clear. It's a fair question. But the point is that let's say that a shipyard driver crashed into a bus with children and killed half the kids on the bus. Shipyard's brand in a very short amount of time would be hurt, not because Shipyard did anything wrong with their beer, but they were caught in a controversy. Is Shipyard still a bad beer? Is there anything wrong with their beer? No. Is there anything technically wrong with a Bud Light? No. Did Bud Light do something that was controversial, that upset people, that hurt their brand? Yes. So that's what I think it is with CGC, is that they are in the middle of a problem where their name is on the books that have caused controversy. So naturally, they didn't do anything wrong, but they're not responsible. They don't have to fix the problem because they didn't solve it. They didn't do the problem. They have no liability to that problem. But their brand saying we graded these books and they have been tampered with, and your book might be a fake because of that bad actor or these group of bad actors, but our name is still on the book. So they are
unless the reholder scam is also proven to be fact, and that comes out, then that does present a liability issue for them on that aspect.
That issue and these swapping out books are
two different issues. Yes.
Completely. And I'm not going to go merge them together because
but like you said, I mean, it's the brand that's being seen right now. It's like Exxon. Exxon was out there and had that big spill, but what they have had is a PR problem. And once you fix a PR problem, then it should go away. I don't think it's going to be past 6 months that we're even thinking about this anymore. But I could be wrong. If they do change their holder and come out and say, hey, we saw what was happening, we're on it, we're doing something about it. If they do that, I don't think it's going to be a problem past 6 months. If they don't,
well, it's going to cause a backlog. So, I mean, it's going to be a pretty big problem because they got to get through all those reholders.
So there's two reasons why this is a problem. So I think the selling off is going to be 6 months or longer because I don't know how many people have $18K, $20K for a 9.0 of Hulk 181 right now laying around. I think those books are going to take time, and I think people are going to say, do I trust this? So you're going to have a bunch of selling off of high-end books, and I don't think they're going to move because I think people are saying we have a problem here. And so until those high-end books are reholded and reestablished as being safe assets again, that creates a problem on the high-end book spectrum. But do I think people are not going to not send books to CGC? I think people are still going to send books to CGC. So there's two problems going on. Once you enter a book that is worth over $10,000, you are in a different category, and that's a whole different trading. So if all I do is I trade in $80 books all day, and I'm just selling 900 of those a month, you're probably going to be relatively safe and relatively fine. That's, I don't think, where the trust is. I think the trust is when you get into some serious high-end books. And I think,
let's say they do come out with a better capsule for, let's say, 10,000 plus books. Let's say this capsule is a lot better, a lot more tamper-proof. Aren't you going to send yours in to get re-capsule? Aren't they going to make more money?
Not necessarily, because if you suspect that you have one of those books, the safest bet, like Andrew was saying, is to get out. If you send it in and it pops fake, then you just lost all that money.
That's if you can get out. If you got
no recovery at that point.
It's not going to move that fast, like you were saying. It's not. So why wouldn't you want to have it recapsuled in a better capsule? They're going to make more money, I think, that way. But like I said, I think if they come out with a better capsule,
what it comes down
to go away.
In that circumstance, you are playing Russian roulette.
Yeah,
well, you're playing Russian roulette anytime you buy something that big.
Yes and no. I mean, before this wasn't on the table, so everybody thought it was legit, and that was that.
Well, it's just something that you didn't think about. It wasn't on the table.
It wasn't on the bingo card. So in life, there are things that are not on the bingo card. I'll give you an example, right? The Jets playing the Commanders was not on the bingo card, where the Jets should not have won that game. Okay,
yeah,
they squeaked out a victory, and I made a lot of money. But
if you got $100 bill in your pocket, you're not thinking it's fake yet.
I mean, if I look at $100 bill and it looks funky, I think it's fake. I mean.
But that's if. See, now you're looking at it. Now you're looking at it with CGC, but before you weren't.
So I obviously look at a lot of baseballs, right, on eBay. So I always say, cool, is this PSA DNA'd? So if it's PSA DNA'd, I look up the number and I'm like, great, most likely it's not fake, right? Because I went through that experience. My dad was collecting PSAs before I was collecting some as well. But then when this incident happened, changed the perspective completely, where it's PSA or Beckett or JSA or nothing, right? So that's what changed me. But I was going down that route anyway. It just got there a lot faster. I don't mind taking a risk on a $5 book, right? So I think so a $30 CGC book that looks cool, I'm not worrying about if it's fake or not, because it's $30, right? If I could take a $30 risk, but if it's $400, I'm definitely doing my due diligence, and I think about, is this legit or not? Because and before all this, I was saying CGC yellow label. I look up the serial number, looks good, right? Wouldn't even occur to me that it could be swapped. Wouldn't even occur. And maybe I'm ignorant. I don't know. Would never occur to me. Now it's on the bingo card, where cool. And then I look at somebody's reputation. I look at their comments on eBay, and if they have 20,000 reviews and they have a 99.7 rating of positive feedback on eBay, and they have 20,000 items sold, the likelihood of it being fake is extremely low. Now, I could be wrong completely, but I guess I get the point. But what I think is going to happen is that I think that this problem is 6 to 18 months, because you have to systematically eliminate all the bad books in that system. And it could be that there's only 50 of them. It could be that there's 500. I don't know the answer.
Nobody does.
Yeah, nobody does.
Nobody's ever going to know the answer, to tell you the truth. But that's something, like I said, it's a PR problem. They have to fix it so you don't. And it's bad to say it, but they have to make you believe it's not a problem anymore.
I don't think, though, that they're going to be able to, because the only way is that there's the old way, and I deal with this at my job, where we have old programs and we're building a new program. Every problem that is in the old programs is going to be eliminated in the new ones, or 90% of them are going to be eliminated, because we're building it from scratch. So if I say this video is a problem, we're going to eliminate that video in the new core, which is at my job, which is an educational company. So that's the easiest way, where there's a divide between old and new. Doesn't mean that the old stuff isn't a problem still. Right. It just means that we are going to ultimately outdate the old problem. Right. The problem with comics is that everybody wants, not everybody, but a lot of people want a Hulk 181. And so I don't know how to say, cool, if they got a $10,000 tier and it's in solid gold, the case, right? So, all of a sudden, they reholder it. Maybe they're giving you a discount because they realize that they got to deal with that. That's part of the PR position. It would normally cost $1,000. Now it's going to cost $500. Okay. But What happens if you send it in and it comes back fake and you just spent $18K on the book? I mean, you're out of the money. So if you think it's fake, what Mike was saying is that you're probably going to try to sell that book for as low as you can just to get the fuck out of it, but you still have fakes running around. And then also, how do we really know if it's fake at this point? Because there are people who are really good at forging.
Right. And you're not going to know. Like I said, it's a PR problem.
You're gonna every single one of the books is gonna have to get reholdered. That's the only way to fix the problem.
I mean,
and you're going to make your customers feel confident in you again. That's all it is. It's a PR problem. There's no way to make it not a non-problem.
I mean,
there's never going to be a complete fix.
I'll put something even crazier out there. You know that there are fake Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #3s out, graded by CGC in 9.6s. They got through their system, and then people said that I openly submitted a fake Ninja Turtles 3 to CGC that came back as a 9.6 legit. And then they cracked it open, and then they showed CGC how badly they fucked up.
Right.
It happens where CGC isn't perfect.
Right.
It's crazy. I mean, you want to talk about a crazy circumstance. I mean, it is a wild entity. Meaning, and so, I mean, that's where I'm at. And this is why I don't like it, because the only thing I care about is me and my business.
Like I said, it's nothing new. It's just the perception of security. You know, there's this YouTuber who became a little bit rich off of YouTube, put all his money in a bank, and then he went to go take out all his money, and they said, we can't give you that much in a day. It's going to take so long. So it's like that perception that he thought all that money was sitting there in the bank because he felt comfortable with it. And that's why CGC's got to do it too. They got to fix the PR problem.
I agree. I just think that the high-end collectible market is going to be in a tough spot. And that is a very different clientele. I don't think that if you're playing in $100 small cap, mid cap books, that you're going to have a problem. I also think that anything March going forward, there's not going to be an issue. I don't think CGC is going to be hit too hard. I think what it really comes down to is that high-end position, because sure, if you get screwed on $100, $150 book, it sucks, but it's not the worst. It's going to happen in any venture you go into, any investing, any collectability you're going to go into, you're going to be hit with $150 somewhere in as a loss. It's when you get into 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, that's where I think CG is going to have a real hard time. But I also wonder how viable that is, because with comics, it's getting complicated in that space too. So that's just what I think. And I think that's, because I think the PR issue, as you were saying, and I'll be very honest, I think that will, with most 90% of their books, is going to be solved in 6 months or less. Maybe 12. The high end shit's going to take 18 to at the max, 6 at the least, without a doubt. Because it's the market and it's the secondary market that's the issue.
Yeah.
It's that sell through and that burn period. I mean, and that needs to stabilize. And then once that stabilizes, if CGC then has a new holder and a bunch of people rehold their books that they feel comfortable, and a bunch of books get caught and a bunch of books that don't, that will also create restabilization with the high-end books. So it's not just Hulk 181. It's 98. What is it? New Mutants 98 is another one.
Yeah.
Giant X-Men is probably on that list. That's on the fear list, for lack of a better word. And so once some of those get caught and eliminated out of the system, then stabilization and confidence will return.
Yeah, I think you're right. But it's going to take the investors coming back into the market too, because once they exited, I mean, that's going to create that bubble. Same like the housing market, when once the investors leave, it's catastrophic for the industry as a whole. So they have to do something quick and fix it fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I just got some money from an investment where I just cashed out of one, and I have a lot of money, and I don't want to sit and I don't want to play in this space because I find it risky. I find this to be risky. I don't find it volatile. I find it risky. And I like to buy assets cheaply. I just am very uncertain. I am very, very, very uncertain in this regard. And I don't want to go and spend $8,000 on like a 7.5 Hulk 181 and then have to know if it's real or fake because I don't want to lose 8 Gs. I mean, I would be terrified. I'd be terrified.
That's just the dice that you roll. I mean, that's the gamble that you make with any kind of investment, whether it's stocks, whether it's baseball cards, whether it's comic books. There's always a risk, and it like I said, right now it's CGC focused, but it's just a moment in time, a blip in the system.
So let me ask both of you a question. So if you both run Kickstarters, I haven't run one yet. And I'm not opposed to sending books to CGC. I probably will, maybe starting in 6 months or so. Or if I do a Kickstarter, I'm probably gonna open up a CGC account and I'm gonna offer that as a tier. But are you guys willing to send books to CGC and send your books to CGC on your Kickstarter stuff, whether you agree or disagree?
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%. I'm still going to do it. Hell, Matt Riddle's signing an hour and a half south of me in March in Indianapolis, and I'm going to get some of the Vic King covers signed by Matt Riddle. So yeah, totally. I don't care.
I've never done CGC before, so I mean, I don't know if I did send it to anyone. It would probably be CGC.
So you're not affecting it, and I mean, do you guys feel that Kickstarter people in general are gonna care about this, or do you just think that it's?
I don't think it has anything to do with the new books, and it definitely doesn't have anything to do with the books in the indie scene. These people are 100% focused on making money, and I mean, how many indie books move for $10,000-$15,000? Or even, $400, $500, $600. I mean, they had to work their way up from somewhere, but I guarantee you they didn't start working their way up in the indie community. I mean, that's just not. I don't think it's a factor in our space.
No. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, it's more of a mainstream issue than an indie issue.
Fair enough. And then the reason why I ask this is because it could very well be that there's also a shift now on what's going to happen, where people are going to get, books signed, who they're going to get books signed by, or even how they're going to submit their books, because people might not feel so comfortable submitting through comic shops anymore. People might want to just submit directly to CGC. There might be a real shift even in their business where, I've submitted books directly to CGC. I've never used somebody to submit a book. And I don't know if that's also going to be a problem going forward. And, it's going to be very interesting because I think a bunch of changes are going to happen. And if I was to work for CGC, I mean, I would definitely focus on case work. I would definitely focus on also having more direct submissions, because if you have more direct submissions and you rule out middle people, there creates just less problems and less scams. And then also, I mean, I would massively crack down extensively on the people and the big players in this space, and I would make an example out of them, and I wouldn't even go criminally. I would go civilly. And the only reason why I would go civilly is that if you put somebody in debt and force bankruptcy, it's going to stop the next guy from doing it, because when somebody feels like they're going to lose their house, they're going to think twice before trying to pull a major scam and hurt people, because I don't think sending somebody to jail is a massive deterrent. I don't. And that those are the three things that I would tell CGC to do right now. So, yeah. I don't know if you guys have any comments on that, or if you think I'm being draconian. Also, I would openly, if they're at a con, burn their table. But somebody else would bring the gasoline. I would bring the lighter. We would create a distraction, burn their table, and I would hobble away on my crutches. They'll never expect it's me. Never. I'm just a humble disabled person. I would never do such a thing.
I don't know what CGC can do. I don't know what they're going to do. But like I said, it's definitely something they have to address and do something new. Revolutionize a little bit. Evolve, if you will. But, I mean, you just go from there.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I have anything else to cover. I don't know if anybody else has anything else to cover. I don't know if anybody else wants to do anything controversial like religion, politics, the topic of abortion we could talk about. Yeah, I mean, I'm all open tonight. No, but I think we covered everything on this issue because I think because my whole theory is that there's been a lot of spoken about it. I don't think there's actually been a massive civil conversation on an hour of just people actually talking because I've seen a bunch of extreme hyperbole and panic. And I think that there has to be rationale on these issues. And I think it's an unfortunate thing because when this thing dropped, 2-3 weeks ago, I think everybody went up in arms and was like, not really an apology. And so I think this is a start. I don't think this was the perfect answer for everything, but I think this was a relatively civil conversation on the topic. And I think there needs to be more of this. And I wish somebody from CGC would come on.
Well, see, the problem is you have a lot of people that are extremely partisan, just like, on the left and the right of politics, it's the same concept. These guys that are like diehard CGC fanboys, and that's what they are, they're fanboys. They have all this money invested in it, and they want to uphold that gold standard that they have claimed that CGC is all of these years at all costs because they don't want their money to go down the toilet. So they have a dog in the fight to sit there and prop CGC up and go to bat for them and troll for them. And same thing with the CBCS fanboys, and that's what they are. They're fanboys. And they go to bat, and same thing, and it's just an extremely partisan bickering between the two, back and forth. And I mean, it's really not even about that. It's about the industry as a whole. And when people sit there and they claim a side or this side's better than this side, I mean, nothing ever gets accomplished. I mean, you're not gonna move forward from that, and you can't take the word of somebody that's got tens of thousands of dollars invested in CGC books as to what the solution or the issue even might be, because they're too biased. They can't see past their own nose.
And that's the biggest problem whenever you get blinded by one side or the other. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you're comic skate or mainstream, whether you're one way or the other, you just got to understand what the problem is. To me, like I said, and I keep saying, it's buyer beware. Everything has issues. You have to do your own due diligence and understand where you're putting your money. You have to understand what's going on and how it's being used. CGC isn't the answer to everything comic security wise, and hopefully everybody understands that. But again, it is that added protection of not having nothing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think we covered a lot, and hopefully people found value out of this. And hopefully we touched upon some stuff. Obviously, I'm sure that I missed some stuff. I'm sure that other people have opinions, and I'm sure other people are fascinated by this. And I think it's an ongoing discussion, just like everything else in comics. But I do want to give everybody another chance to promote themselves. So I think everything was relatively covered. I don't know who wants to go first in promoting themselves, but feel free to do what you got to do.
yeah. So, okay. I'm Paul Gomez, 790. If you have any questions about creating comics, I'm glad to help and answer it. If I don't have the answer, I can point you in the right direction. Paul Gomez 790 on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Usually you can find me on Facebook. On Wednesdays, I have my own show, Uncharted, where I try to promote people and answer a few questions as well. Other than that, if you're having a bad day, if you're feeling down, just need somebody to talk to, it's okay not to be okay. Send me a message. I'll be glad to talk. Paul Gomez 790.
Cool. I'm Mike Wheeler, Divinity Comics, Comics Illustrated, and you can find us at divinitycomics.com and comicsillustrated.com. And that's it.
Yeah, and this is my show. I'm Andrew Davis. Obviously, you can find me on Facebook. You could find me on Pop Anime Comics on Facebook, Pop Anime Comics on YouTube. I got a lot of content out there. Anything with Pop Anime Comics is mine. Anything with conversations about culture is mine. I'm coming back on January 9th. And yes, I am starting off the season with her. And it's going to be a blast. And I'm super excited. And I got Jen Thomas, who's also very attractive. I got Dave Franchini coming on. I got a few other people coming on. And I'm building out a hell of a season, and I have a new tagline, and you're gonna have to tune in on January 9th, 7 p.m. to come find out what we're doing. So it's gonna be a good one, guys. And
I'm excited for the Dan Franchini interview. I'm going to be there for that one.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. It's the second time. It's the second time he came on, and he's an absolutely great human being. And they run a great ship, Cenoscope. They run a great ship, and they're one of those companies that's going to be around, I think, the next 25 years, easy. But I digress. But enough about that. I think this was successful, and I appreciate everybody coming on. And on that note, everybody, it is a wrap.